Welcome to the Meme Coin podcast. I am excited to interview just an unbelievable, crazy, insane, amazing human being. On this podcast, we interview the greats, the pantheons of the meme coin space, billionaires, millionaires, developers, advisors, marketers, influencers, leaders, traders, investors, people who have made a ton, people who have lost a lot, and people you and I can learn from here at the Meme Coin Podcast. Today's guest is my man, Shibtoshi. Yes, a meme coin billionaire. It sounds insane. It is probably one of the craziest stories in all of crypto. And so many of you guys are new. You have no idea. And so I'm excited to have my man Shibtoshi with us today. Shibtoshi, how are we today, sir?
Hey, Henok, I appreciate you having me here. Excited to talk to your audience and kind of go over, my journey in the crypto space and kind of what the project's doing and just kind of chit chat a little bit, man. So thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, man. It is an honor. It is such a privilege to be here. I mean, you have one of the craziest stories, right? And for a lot of meme traders, it's the dream, right? The idea of, trading for whatever amount and turning that into life-changing gains. You did it. You did it many times over. You are infamous for the greatest trade, maybe of all time in meme coins. You turned X amount of dollars into, well over $1 billion. It's insane.
37 E.
It's insane. Do you mind sharing that story?
Yeah. So, give you a little background. Obviously I've been in crypto since 2011, and I was introduced to crypto through Bitcoin on the poker tables in Vegas. And, it was through that interaction of finding some friends, that were utilizing Bitcoin to play online poker that it kind of piqued my interest. And, so essentially there was one night in Vegas, I had got wiped out on the poker tables, and the boys were talking about this online poker game. And I was like, do we wire money in? Like, do we pull markers? Like, how do we get into this game? And they told me it was Bitcoin. Now, I've previously heard of Bitcoin, and I did a little light research into it and saw that it was associated with some kind of illicit things online, and I just kind of ruled it as being illegal and stayed away from it. But months later, I was introduced to it again. So after I asked kind of some questions to my buddy, I ended up doing an OTC deal with him to get into this poker game for 30 grand. I didn't make that immediate game, but I caught the next one and I got wiped out. But when I got home, I started doing due diligence on Bitcoin on the forums, reading the white paper, and it just resonated with me. And it was off to the races, and that kind of put me, into the whole crypto realm. I really loved the idea that, there was not an entity that could really just take your funds from you. Like, with the banking, they can just, freeze your funds or whatever they choose to do. They have ultimate control. But in cryptocurrency, if you self-custody, there's nobody that can do that. So, that kind of sent me down that path. So my first 3 crypto investments were Bitcoin, Namecoin, and then Litecoin. And Bitcoin and Litecoin are obviously still around. Shout out to my buddy Charlie Lee. He's the founder of Litecoin. Namecoin's still around, but I guess it's probably not done well over the years. But those were my first 3 crypto investments, and that kind of put me down that path. And there was a lot of learning throughout the years. Kind of just soaking up all this knowledge that I could find on the internet, talking to other people on the forums that were seasoned in crypto, and I was just trying to, take in as much as I could. And so, when you're interested in something, you do research in that, and crypto had my interest. And throughout the years, I had tried to get my friends into cryptocurrency, and nobody saw it the way that I saw it, right? I mean, there was many instances that I talked to my buddies about buying Bitcoin sub $100. And, probably every significant run up on Bitcoin leading to the point that they actually got involved in the market, I would ping them about picking up some Bitcoin, and there was always reluctance. Nobody understood it. And, I think the biggest struggle was, you give money, which is something you can possess in your hands, for some digital asset that you can't really hold in your hand, right? With the exception of like an external wallet. And, but it was during this time frame, I was going out to lunch with one of my buddies, This was 2020, and we were in the parking structure of his building, and he was telling me about his stock investments. You know, how he was stoked that, you know, he had gone up 30%, you know, in the market, and, you know, it was a great year for him. And we just kind of, I started throwing subtle jabs here because I had talked to him about cryptocurrency, and he was reluctant. He was a stock guy, and I was like, yo, man, like my portfolio swing 30%, you know, a day sometimes. You know, and that's just a normal day in crypto sometimes. And, you know, over the course of having lunch, we talked a little more about that and life. And after the hangout, we talked a little more. We talked about Dogecoin, and, you know, life went on. There came a day on August 1st, 2020, that he hit me up and was talking about Shiba Inu. It was all the rage in this Arab community that he was in, and he was going on about the Dogecoin killer. I got to buy some. I got to buy some. And, you know, my thoughts to myself was, you know, surely there's no way that this guy found anything, you know, like I've never known him to invest in crypto to any capacity. Like, no way that, you know, you found anything that was going to do anything. But he was very persistent. And there came a point in time where in my little group chat that we all had together, you know, all of his friends, which were my friends as well, had talked about buying into SHIB. And they start talking about amounts that they've acquired and amounts they spent. It was all small amounts, right? Because, you know, SHIB had just launched, and it didn't take much to get much. And my buddy wore me down over the course of about 5 hours, man. Like, he was just freaking consistent, and with just like telling me I got to at least get something. So there came a point in time that, you know, I just thought it would be funny to just kind of accumulate more than all of my friends together. And that's what I started to do. I started DCAing, you know, and I don't remember any of the original first buys, but there were nothing massive, right? I mean, the project had just launched, so you had to think about price impact. You know, you couldn't just buy $10,000 on the chart. You know, the liquidity wasn't there, the market cap was low, you'd price impact yourself. So, you know, doing what normal traders do is they DCA into small positions, but it wasn't really about like trying to just throw money into this. It was mostly just trying to accumulate more tokens than them, and the price was just falling, right? And it just seemed to kind of go lower. And through this point in time, some of those original friends kind of started peeling off, selling for whatever they could. And the rest of us, when it bottomed out, just kind of moved on with life. And for me personally, Apple comes out with new iPhones in September, and you know, I leveled up on my phone game. I believe it was September, maybe it's November, whenever it was. When Apple came out with a new phone, I picked up the new phone. I tucked my old phone away. There was nothing of value on that phone that I really needed to keep, so everything stayed on that phone, and I just kind of started fresh. And over the course of months, you know, life went on, and, you know, we continued to invest. I continued to push Bitcoin, you know, and life went on. There came a point in time where they start talking about Shiba Inu again, and the price movements on it. So I went and fired up my wallet, and as soon as I, you know, turned on and I went into Trust Wallet, you know, I thought it was just a CMC glitch, because that happens from time to time, right? Where, you know, CMC glitches and it shows like a big value, and, you know, it's just BS. So then I pulled up the chart, and there was substantial movements, and there was a very monumental moment that I vividly remember. It was in October, where there was a Shiba community member. I believe his name was Shib Holder or something to that extent. He tweeted at Elon Musk, you know, hey, Elon, you know, how much Shiba Inu do you hold? And Elon responded 0. And like I've said a couple times on these interviews, it was like Elon said, I'm going to buy $1 billion worth of this token right now. The second he typed those words out, it was just crazy. Now, don't mistake, SHIB was already starting to move, right? You know, it already started gaining some traction. You know, rumors was that Sam Bankman-Fried said that he was going to launch, or he was going to list Shiba on FTX, and, you know, it was starting to gain some traction, go up in market cap. So everybody that was in, you know, day 1, day 2, day 3, we're now up in their value. But, you know, when this tweet happened, it just started flying. And, you know, I mean, the rest is kind of history. Shib's, you know, had a very resilient community. In the very beginning, there wasn't really like a dedicated Twitter account, dedicated channels where the community could just pull together. It was community members just kind of popping these up and just kind of talking about the community. And then eventually, as SHIB started gaining mass attention after Elon, more people started flocking to it. And SHIB's gone on to do amazing things. Right now, even in this market, there's still a multi-billion-dollar market cap. So yeah, I did put 37 Ethereum total into SHIB, and it turned into a pretty impressive screenshot. I'm sure everybody's heard of the $5.7 billion wallet. Yeah, that's cool. I've got a lot of really cool screenshots. But SHIB, especially after Vitalik, but Vitalik was airdropped 50% of the supply, and there came a point in time that he started selling SHIB, got some money out, donated some money, and then burnt the rest of his tokens. And when Vitalik started kind of ripping on the chart and the tokens he gave out were dumped on the chart, it really kind of did a lot of damage to the Shiba Inu. So their liquidity ratios have kind of not really bounced back as far as the DEX goes, but they have plenty of liquidity on the exchanges. Like Binance has like about $1 million in depth a day, so there's substantial volume around, just not really on the DEX. But yeah, man, that's the SHIB story. And obviously when I came out into the space, I thought it was only going to be fitting to name myself Shibtoshi, so Shibtoshi was born. And that brings me here. 2.5 years later, we're still bumping and grinding, riding the market, dealing with the same struggles as everybody else, just, trying hard to keep the community happy and motivated, because really community is key, man. And like I've said always from the beginning, without a strong community foundation, you really don't have anything to build off of. You've got to have that foundation.
No, you're right. It's everything when it comes to memes, and we learned it firsthand with SHIB and Doge and some of those early memes. We'll get into meme history as well. So 37 ETH is what you started with roughly. Do you remember how much ETH was per token roughly back then, that dollar amount?
Well, it was about $13,500. I think ETH was probably around, I don't know, 80, 90 bucks, something like that.
And it changed all the time.
Maybe 200 bucks. Hard to say, that was several years ago, but it was definitely cheap. Actually, I think it was probably around 200-300 bucks in ETH or something like that. That sounds about right.
In other words, you turned thousands of dollars into
$13,500
into, what showed up in your wallet on the screen was over 5 billion. And I remember when I first heard the story, and like, we can talk about liquidity, we can talk about all that, but at the end of the day, you turned it into life-changing gains. And that's really what's, so inspiring and so cool that many, I believe, can draw from as a source of inspiration. So how has crypto changed your life? Because you're a Bitcoin OG. You're not just a meme coin. You're not just maybe the first or one of the only meme coin billionaires, at least that we know of in the public. But man, you're a Bitcoin OG. You've been a part of crypto culture since pretty much inception. Like, how has crypto changed your life? What are your thoughts on crypto overall?
Well, like I said in the beginning, when I was first exposed to Bitcoin, and after I did some due diligence, I felt it was exactly what the world needed, especially stemming from the 2008 crash. And, essentially everything that I have in life stems from Bitcoin. And so it's changed my life in a lot of ways. It's given me the ability to, not have to work a 9 to 5, for example, stress over paying bills, to just kind of, go whichever direction I choose to go. So it's empowered me to, kind of just take a better handle of my life and live my life how I see fit, without kind of being bound to 9 to 5s or having a boss. It's given me a level of freedom. But a lot of people, they chase this crypto dream, and as they should. That's what crypto's about. Life changing money. But for me personally, when I came into money, I thought it was the answer to everything. And I can tell you, like, yes, it gives you the ability to not have to have certain concerns and travel and buy nice things that maybe you've wanted. All that shit gets old though, right? It doesn't just like have this glowing light over your head all the time that just has you in a happy mood, you're still susceptible to, stresses of life, whether it's friends, family, loved ones, whatever it might be, so people chase this dream thinking it's going to change their life, and it does change their life to an extent because it amplifies their life in a certain direction. It gives them the freedom and the power to kind of just do whatever it is they want to do, treat themselves. You can only buy yourself so much cool shit. And then, the luster from that just gets old. But the most important thing is it allows you, or it has allowed me the ability to take care of my family, right? So my family first. And, I do look after my friends. I haven't changed any of my friends' life in a massively positive way, as far as finances. I didn't bless anybody with millions of dollars. But I've definitely looked after my family, and that's a whole nother story. For me, it's family first. And, I look after my friends. My friends that are close to me know that they never have to ask or want for nothing because, there's just no need. And the group of friends that I have, they've never asked me for anything, you know what I mean? And I appreciate that. I've had my friends where, it kind of evolved into, loans and gifts. And I don't loan money. I give it out because I'm not willing to lose friendships over a money loan. But once you open that door, sometimes it becomes a revolving door. And then it gets to the point where it's just this consistent ask. And then you just see the writing on the wall. This is just, they're just taking advantage of your generosity. And usually at that point, you cut ties and move on with life. So, through the course of my crypto journey, my circle's gone from being this big circle of people that I used to party with, and back when I used to go out and drink with, to this very tight-knit circle that, I know 100% everybody's got my back. Everybody wants kind of the same things in life, it's just everybody wants that family, and they just want to be able to look after their family and have a good buddy to share some laughs with, maybe go shoot some guns or go hunting or shoot bows or whatever it might be, and that's the circle that I have currently. So it's definitely changed my life in a lot of positive ways, but it's also brought a lot of challenges. And when you essentially come from, you go from one bracket of living to another bracket, right? There's a lot of things that you've got to do to kind of get up to speed, right? Tax brackets being one of them. You go into a whole nother tax bracket. And let me tell you what, that tax man definitely wants his percentages. So you got to make sure that, that you get on top of that. And what I have been doing recently is I just do collateralized loans. I'm not realizing gains on Bitcoin. I'm giving Bitcoin out. They're giving me USD. And then it's deposited in my bank account. I'm losing 15% on that. And if I want that Bitcoin back, I pay the 15% plus a little interest, and I get my Bitcoins back. But if I'm using it as a source to off-ramp, I give $1 million in Bitcoin, they give me $750,000 in Bitcoin. I just paid tax on $1 million, and I only lost 15%. That is way better than 30-40%.
Wow, that is very, very fascinating to me. So who are you lending it to?
I won't get into all the details, but I have a personal banker that I've been working with for some time now. And I only say that because, I don't want to give out specifics, but I have a personal banker that I'm working with, and they facilitate this. And it's something that they don't always do. It depends on the market. It kind of depends on what they have going on. But, when the opportunities arise, you can do a collateralized loan. And collateralized loans are not taxed, right? Because it's a collateralized loan. A loan is not a taxable event. So the bank itself, they keep a 15% fee, which, that is kind of high, you're right. But if you're looking at it from where I'm sitting, it's a lot better than 40%.
That's amazing. I'm a meme head. This is the Meme Coin podcast. I'm obsessed with memes. I'm 99% of my net worth is in memes. I eat, sleep, drink, breathe. My life is given over to memes. So don't get me wrong, chat. But man, I am obsessed with Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin. I think about Bitcoin for 40, 50 years. And I'm thinking about things like collateralized loans and, how do we monetize our Bitcoin and how do we leverage the asset and where's this thing headed and, mortgage and real estate and so yeah, man, this is like such a fascinating conversation.
Let me ask you this. Obviously, I'm a big supporter of Bitcoin as well. What do you think it would take to get true mass adoption of Bitcoin in the world?
It's a great question.
What things would have to align to get people to want to use Bitcoin in everyday life, right?
It's tough, right? Because what I'm seeing right now is Bitcoin has gone from being a movement where average everyday people have the freedom and the movement of money to now Bitcoin is becoming like the 1%, the rich man, the rich woman's like, premium asset. And it's like a trophy, like a piece of art that's worth 30 mil that it's almost like a calling card or like, yo, I'm a Bitcoiner and I'm worth, this much in Bitcoin. And, someone who walks in the room who's worth 100 mil in oil and gas or real estate, their clout is here. But someone says I'm worth 100 mil in Bitcoin, and there's this social capital on top of the actual capital. So man, I don't know if, and this is so sad. And I know for you guys who really like paved the way for people like me and the average person, this is probably tough to hear, maybe sad, but like, I don't know that Bitcoin is going to be for the average everyday person. And that is so sad. The 1%, the wealthy, these institutions, these venture capital firms, these organizations that are comprised of wealth, they're all seeing it. The educated, they're beginning to see it and see the value. The 1% in society, even the 1% inside of memes, we are beginning to see the value of this incredible asset, digital gold, digital Manhattan. But the average everyday person who probably needs it the most, who needs to use it the most, they're just not seeing it. They're just not getting it. And I don't know if they're going to interact and use it for buying a Snickers bar. They really should think about it as a store of value for asset and protecting wealth and growing wealth over time. But people aren't just seeing it. So I hate to say this, bro. I don't know. I think that the future of Bitcoin in the hands of the everyday person, which was Satoshi's original vision, I think it's an extreme jeopardy right now.
Well, we do have some positives going for us, right? We got the United States; they're talking about a Bitcoin reserve. We've got some other countries that hoard Bitcoin. But kind of what the point that I was getting at with just crypto in general, for crypto to be mass adopted. Let me ask you this: do you use Venmo, Cash App, Zelle?
Absolutely, yes.
Would you use those applications if anybody in the entire world could see what you were buying, selling, who you were sending money to?
If everyone could see what I'm doing? Ooh, I don't know about that, man. I wouldn't feel too good about that. Yeah, I don't know about that.
That's how crypto is. Everything's on chain, right? And Tucker Carlson early December came out talking about, hey, Bitcoin is not private, right? We've been lied to, right? Now, let me clarify. Yes, it's true. And when I got into crypto back in the day, everybody said Bitcoin's anonymous. This is true. Your name, your address is not associated with your crypto address, right? But if I know that this is Henok's address, wallet address,
You got me.
and I'm watching it, and you're sending money over here and money over there, I can follow you around, right? Oh shit, Henok, bought some pizza over here at this place that takes crypto. Oh, he's in the area. Maybe I've got a problem with you. Maybe you've got a big wallet balance showing. Your entire net worth is viewable for the whole world to see in your wallet address, right? Everybody can see it. Everybody knows where you're transacting. So my point with the question is, it would not, in my personal opinion, ever achieve mass adoption unless people have the same level of privacy that they have come to expect in the banking industry, right? Venmo, Zelle, Cash App, debit card transactions, credit card transactions, right? So with everything being on chain, for example, you're a company and you're paying out payroll. Well, you could see what everybody else that you work with is now getting paid to an extent if you have an inclination of their wallet addresses. Now, maybe you're envious. Maybe there's a problem now because why is John Doe making $700 more than me a month when I actually outperform him? Like, that's not okay, right? So even from a business perspective, because everything's on chain, it will really hinder the mass adoption of cryptocurrency moving forward, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's Ethereum, whether it's Litecoin, whether it's any other cryptocurrency in the world. If there is not a privacy level to it, it's going to be hard to be mass adoption, because at the end of the day, we expect privacy, right? We demand it. And with everything being verifiable on chain, it makes it very hard to kind of go out and go buy groceries. You know, hey, Henok bought, a gallon of milk at HEB over here. Okay, so that means he's in this area. Like, there's a danger. There's a level of danger, and the reason why I say that is, unlike the banking system where your money is locked up in a bank safe, I'll say, right, with FDIC insurance, we are all going to think that Hanok's walking around with whatever his wallet balance is in his phone. That makes you a target.
Right.
Anybody else in the crypto space that's got a big net worth. I mean, look at the unfortunate situation of the co-founder of Ledger. That was a very unfortunate situation. Why? Because he's known to possess large amounts of money, or it was assumed that he possessed large amounts of money, and unfortunately, him and his wife were captured. Luckily, everybody was returned safe and sound for the most part, without much harm being inflicted. And that's just the dangerous part of cryptocurrency. And I say all that to say, without some kind of privacy in this space, I don't think crypto will ever truly be mass adopted. The Bitcoin's talking, or the government's talking about a Bitcoin reserve. If they decide to pay government contracts for military or Boeing or whatever it is, the entire world, if they're paying that in crypto, is going to say, Russia's going to see that they just gave $100 million to Boeing. What are they working on? They're probably working on, some new, ultra sleek military aircraft or something. If everything is verifiable on chain, it's going to be very hard to achieve mass adoption. And we'll get into kind of my broader point in that a little down the road. I'm sure you see where I'm going with it, but I just kind of wanted to touch on that and get into some detail on that.
Yeah, I think it's important, and I can definitely see, like, Bitcoin, I think, will be reserved for the wealthy. Unfortunately, at this point, there'll be a few people that are not wealthy that see the value and take advantage of DCA, and they'll grow rich later because of that. But for the average everyday person, the mailman, the grocer, I just don't see for Bitcoin. Now, crypto in general, I do see a pathway forward where everyone is involved in some way, shape, or form. But it would be akin to maybe what we saw with software on mobile. So in the early 2010s, I mean, you talk to the average person, like, what do they know about software? Hardly anything. But you know what? When Facebook, or mobile software even, very few people on earth valued that. But when Facebook rolled out an app, when the Bible app came out on the phone, when the weather app came out on the phone, now the average everyday person, they're not thinking about the underlying technology. They're leveraging the application, and there's, a mobile software underneath that, making that thing happen. So when someone comes up with something that leverages blockchain and maybe even crypto technology, but the front-facing aspect of that thing is something that people can use in everyday life with ease, I believe in that moment we will see mass adoption. But we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Time will tell.
Time will tell. And you got into memes, though, right? So, and I remember whenever I first got into meme coins in 2021, Bitcoiners and altcoin guys and gals, man, they hated us. We were the scum of the earth. We were the parasites of crypto, and that persisted even through 2022 and a little bit of 2023. And then Pepe happened, and the meme revolution, the meme coin movement happened, Solana happened. And beginning at the end of 2023, I began to notice a huge shift among OG Bitcoiners and many others as well. But you got in really early. What was it about meme coins that brought you in or got you excited about meme coins? And what value did you see so early?
I was just buying the little catchy names, the little catchy logos, sometimes, my group of friends would bring things to me, and, we'd all buy it together, for the narrative or whatever it might be. But, for me, if I'm looking to park my money somewhere, I buy blue chips. If I'm looking to, now I don't play poker much anymore. I actually haven't played in, probably about a year. But if that itch ever arises where, hey, I want to gamble a little bit, I'll go find some meme coins. And me and my circle of friends will just start, having a heyday, donating money, right? And if some of them print, that's great. If some of them don't, then, it is what it is. But it scratches that itch for me. Very similar to trading perpetuals. when I have that same itch and I'm not willing to buy any of this crap that's in the market currently that's launching, that's around for 5 minutes, I'll go trade perpetuals. I'll bet the market's going to go up or down, and that suffices that itch for me, right? So at the end of the day, I was introduced to crypto on the poker tables. I enjoy poker. I enjoy that intense, river card moment where you don't know, if you're going to get the pot or if you're going to lose on the flop. I enjoy that. I enjoy those ups and I enjoy those downs. And that's why I think, I'm a little more desensitized than most when my portfolio is swinging around, you know. And I was talking to Gary Cardone actually yesterday, and we were talking about, Bitcoin and, how a lot of people get over invested and over emotional when it comes to Bitcoin and seeing their portfolio swing one way or another. If you have conviction on something, it doesn't really matter what the price on it is doing right now. Down in the future, that's what matters. Bitcoin in particular. 3 years from now, you think you're going to care if you bought Bitcoin at $100 and it dropped to $93,000? No, it's not going to matter, because it's going to be, God willing, hopefully way above 100. It's not going to matter. And conviction plays, who cares at the market? Shiba Inu, for example, they were just trading at 14 billion about 2 months ago. Right now they're below 10 billion. You think anybody really cares that it's below 10 billion if they have long-term conviction on it? No, because we all know it's going to go back up 50, 60, 70, 80 million, 100 million, maybe flip Dogecoin. Long-term goal, long-term vision, it's conviction. So, you've got people in this market that, they're so focused on day to day. Oh, fuck, we're down today. Oh, we're up today. You got to have when you have a conviction play, you think long-term, how can this asset be utilized? How, which direction could this go up? Everybody obviously hopes that things go up and not down, but the market swings. It goes up, it goes down. And if you have a conviction in something, you just focus on the long term. And, 9 times out of 10, that's going to pay off for you, and so that's kind of was the gist of the conversation I was having yesterday, just talking about Bitcoiners and, people that are just coming into the space that are upset that they bought 106K and, I bought the top, now I'm going to have to wait another 3 years. Well, in my opinion, we didn't see the top yet, but, if that was the case, so what? When the market swings, you're going to be thankful that you have that 106. And if you have the money, then you're going to continue to DCA at the lower prices. And you'll be very thankful that you've done that. So, in today's age of the market, we have a lot of people becoming onboarded, and they just think that they're going to throw $100 into something. They're going to wake up a multimillionaire. I saw something on TikTok, like a month and a half ago. This guy, put in whatever it was, like $30 or something, woke up to, I think it was $12 million in his Phantom wallet. No liquidity though, right? And so I can definitely relate to that in a lot of ways. But not everybody has the luck like that. 90. I'd probably, and I don't know the statistics, but I'm willing to say like 99.95% people that are investing on Pump.Fund tokens are just losing their ass, and they're losing it back to back. And then they have a play that does good and either prints them money or breaks them even, and it's enough to keep them going. But all these big stories, I'm a perpetual trader myself. You see all these perpetual traders posting on X, all their big gains of trading perpetuals and, printing millions of dollars. Yeah, that does happen. It does. But I can tell you from my personal experience that I myself only really talk about my wins. I don't talk about the dozens of big losses that I've had, right? So, it's not all rainbows, out there. And everybody has this dream that they're going to just, take the easy route, and sometimes it is easy. Other times you've got to work for it, and that's crypto, man.
I couldn't agree with you more. So what have been some of the mistakes you've made, trading memes over the years?
Not knowing when to pull profit. Numerous instances. I just, when I invest into something, I'm indifferent about it, right? It's not going to change my life, right? I mean, there's very rarely something that could change my life. And if I do get lucky on something cool, like I'll go buy like another watch or, something like that. But, there was a time that, I had a trusted source, and he was just giving me and my circle these plays, and they were just fucking just solid, man. It was a winner every time. And it came a point, and it's not like it just shot to the moon and came down. Like, it shot to the moon, pulled back, and lingered high, right? So then you can kind of make up your mind, hey, I'm going to DCA out of this position, or, I'm going to buy more or whatever. But there was a point in time that this source just started failing us substantially. Every play that we were getting rugged on, and then it eventually came out they were farming my circle for our liquidity, using us to pump the chart and then dumping on us. And that was a lesson that I learned. I mean, there's been many lessons. Fortunately for me, I've never experienced like a wallet hack or a fish or anything like that. I'm pretty tight with how I run everything. But I have a lot of friends that have been affected with that type of stuff, unfortunately. But one thing I've learned throughout the years is you've got to do your own due diligence. I could tell you, hey, Henok, this is a banger, man. Everything about this token looks like it's going to just make you a millionaire, right? And maybe I didn't look at the contract. Maybe the contract's not verified, right? And maybe there's a way that they can rug the token, or maybe you can't sell the token. And I do all my due diligence with the exception of that area. And based on the strength of my word, you go and throw money into this. And you know what? We end up losing. We get rugged. And, we were taking my word for it without doing your own due diligence. So one thing that I've learned, because I've been in similar situations with that, is you always have to take the time to do your own due diligence. And I'll give you an example. Just recently, through my political circle, I got a phone call. It was about 9:06 p.m. ET time. Hey, Shib, Trump just launched a token. There's this Trump token. No fucking way. There's no way Trump launched a token. And keep in mind, he just posted about it. He posted about it at about 8:40 p.m. ET time and some change. So, it was fairly recent. And I remember when I pulled it up at the contract address, it was $3 a token. Right? And I was like, there's no way. There's no way Trump launched a token. There's no way. So we kind of went about our phone call, and we did not, we did not think that, surely it was a hacked account. Surely it was a hacked account. There's no way. So we go about an hour phone call where, we got two other people on the line. We're just shooting shit, and we check, and I'm noticing that Trump is pumping $6, $8. So at about the $8 mark, I said, fuck this. I'm jumping into this shit. It just more than 2x. So I start moving Solana around. And by the time I got in around the wick when it wicked down to about $3, $4. So I started DCAing. Boom, 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 boom. And I got in early, right? And at about $13, they changed the circulating supply. So it changed because originally it was going off of the full circulation supply of the FDV. So at that point, the true FDV market cap was 13, 14 billion. They changed it because there was only, I believe, 200 million tokens in circulation. So they flipped it. So FDV was 14 billion, but now the price, the actual circulating supply market cap changed to 3 billion, but it was still trading at 14 billion. And that ran up like it did. I, like myself, thought it was going to 100. Unfortunately for me, I started, getting out of my position around $60, $70.
Wow.
And I was good, but I kept the bag. Next day, and keep in mind, like, I'm getting ready to go to DC at this time, right? And my whole thought was like, there's no way the president, he's about to be a president, is going to launch this token. Anyway, sure enough, that's what happened. Then shortly thereafter, Melania drops a token. And, I jump into that, right? And now I've got Trump, I've got Melania, and I've got a point to this story, so I'll get there. So, that runs its course. Then the same group of my buddies call me, like, yo, the official Baron token just dropped. And I said, oh, fuck, shoot it to me. 238 million market cap. Oh, shit. I dumped all my Melania, all of my fucking Trump. I rolled 6 figures into this official Baron coin, 238 million market cap. I'm like, let's fucking go. It's going to the billions. I shot it to my friends. I shot it to, a couple of my whales. And 4 minutes later, it rugged. And my point of the story is, you've got to do your due diligence, right? I got this alpha from a buddy that had shot me Trump and Melania. So when he shot me the official Baron coin, I'm like, fucking alpha. No due diligence. Everything went out the window. Blindly 6 figures into the token, right? Shot it to all of my friends. Yeah, within 4 minutes, dude, it was fucking rugged. And from what I read, there was like, and what was crazy about it is they had 28,000 Solana in the liquidity pair. Like, it wasn't like, it wasn't like it was like just a small amount. It fit what had happened with Trump and Melania. Like, this has got big liquidity in it. And it fucking rugged. So my point of the story is, you can get alpha from a solid source and do your due diligence. And in a moment of just trying to just go with the alpha, everything goes out the window, you pay the piper, and that was that situation for me. And fortunately for me, I sent it to one of my whales. Thank God they had already bought it before I had even sent it to them. And then nobody in my circle jumped into it. And, fortunately in that particular instance, I didn't directly shill it to anybody that lost. The one whale investor that I sent it to, although they did have me feeling bad for a couple minutes, they did tell me, nah, I was already holding it. I had already got in. So I was like, all right, cool. Because the last thing you want to do is get your friends rugged, right?
That's true. That hurts.
You just got to do your due diligence in the space. And, that the point of, what I have learned in the space with the time that I've been in it is you have to do your due diligence no matter how reliable the source is. You gotta see it for your own eyes. You gotta do your due diligence. And with the official Baron, all that I needed to see was 28,000 Solana and the liquidity pool. I'm like, I'll bet.
I love it. Dude, what a great story, man. That weekend was pandemonium. That was Trump launching a meme coin. It's validation for the meme coin space. It's pure insanity. There's just a lot there. But man, what a great story.
Oh, that came out of left field. I'm like, God damn, can you not let any of the donors know that you're launching a coin? Like, no early contract? Come on. There was that one insider that put $1 million into it 60 seconds after launch and cleared 300 million. That's a pretty good turnaround.
That's a good trade. Yeah, that's insane. Not as good as yours.
Well, yes, but the difference is that's a liquid trade. He got that out.
That's fair. But we're not talking about liquid trades. We want the headline, okay?
We're talking about screenshots.
We're talking about screenshots. 13K into 5.7 billion. Shibtoshi the GOAT. Okay, dude, we have to talk about SquidGrow. You're a Bitcoin OG. You've been in crypto from almost the beginning. You got into meme coins early, 13 grand into 5.7 billion on paper, on a screen, whatever, call what you want, life-changing gains, bottom line. But then you transitioned into leading a project. They call you a developer. Like, dude, tell us the story of SquidGrow and how it all happened.
So, yeah, that's kind of, crazy story. And, so like I said kind of earlier on, through the course of my crypto journey, I was trying to always get my friends and family into it, right? And I was always kind of pushing and prodding, and nobody had the conviction in crypto to take money and invest. Small amount, large amount, nobody wanted to touch it. There came a point in time where my lifestyle substantially changed. Like, it went from, I stand out a little bit to what the fuck is going on over here? Like, what is going on? Crypto, bro, Bitcoin. I'm telling you.
Well, wait, can you describe that? Like, can you tell us like a little bit of what that looked like?
Okay, so for example, like the first house that I purchased was 5,000 square feet. Right, that's a nice size house. Pool, palm trees, this, that, and the other. No super nice cars. I think at that time, because keep in mind, I come from a poker background, so I had, I had a bit of money, but I had like this Ferrari F430, red, and I had my trucks and stuff. And then I decided to just level up, right? I double the size of my house. I just start buying cars left and right, anything I wanted. I'm running literally, like, at this point in time now, it's not like this anymore, but when I first came into money, like, I just had so many cars in my driveway. It was just ridiculous. Sometimes I'd have to like move cars around to drive the car that I wanted to drive. Not enough space in the garage. Everything's in there. Got my motorcycles, jet skis, the cars, driveways. You're like, what the fuck is going on? And guns, I'm an advocate for firearms, and there was a gun that all my buddies were drilling over, and I had bought a couple of them, and I was like, yo, like, what the fuck is going on? And I'm like, I'm telling you, man, crypto. And so that kind of started the trajectory for all of my friends. They really fucking realized this is more than just digital. You can actually buy real shit with this. You can touch it. You can spend it. And it started everybody down the trajectory of going down the rabbit hole, man. And I remember a point in time that this was, well, all of that lifestyle stuff changed probably in 1920, but this area of events that I'm referring to right now, where my friends really started taking note, was about 2021. And everybody just started going down the rabbit hole. Market is just launching, like it's doing its last little pump. SafeMoon came out, Evergrow came out. Like, these tokens were just coming out left and right, and they're just freaking mooning, right? And my friends were like, fuck, man, like, we're missing out on this. In some instances, they have friends of friends that got into something and just made $1 million. And this is that mentality that you put very little in, and in a week you're a millionaire, right? This is that mentality. So my circle of friends just started hitting up DX sale, Pink sale, anything they found on Reddit. They're just freaking buying, and they're just getting destroyed. They're just getting wrecked left and right. And there came a point in time. Actually, it was actually around this time I actually got rugged for the first time. It was at this. I got two of my closest friends involved into a project. It was called Oxycoin. And we jumped into that. Me and my best friend were battling for top wallet. We're just kept buying each other, buying over each other. I go to sleep, he buys more than me. He's at work, I'm buying more than him. And it was just this battle, and it was just doing phenomenal until it rugged. But that was my first rug. But so it was around this time everybody's just losing money. And then I have a text group. And we just kind of banter back and forth in that text group about different projects or life or whatever it is. And it was in that group that it was mentioned for the first time, like, you should launch your own project. Like, we're just out here losing money. We don't know what we're doing. Like, you should launch something. I'm like, fuck that. I'm not going to launch a token. Like, I don't need it. I don't want it. I don't know how to do it. I'm just not interested. And this was, like, as I said, 21. And, they stayed persistent on me. So I started playing around with the idea. I was like, okay, well, let me just, out of curiosity, like, how does somebody launch? I'm going to be a Shibtoshi Nakamoto. Like, how do you do this, right? And I learned very quick, like, there's two different sides. There's a token and there's a coin, right? Coins obviously have their own both underlying blockchain technology. A token is launched on somebody else's. So I started learning the ins and outs, because I just went into this and be like, I'm going to be Shibtoshi Nakamoto. I mean, that's okay. I got some money. I'm going to do this. And I start researching, and it's obviously not as easy. It's not an easy endeavor to launch a full-blown blockchain, especially one that can scale and generate some traction. So I start looking into, all the typical blockchains out there. Obviously, you can't launch anything on Bitcoin, right? At least at this time. And I found this YouTuber. He was doing these online courses for Solidity, right? And Solidity is primarily the underlying code that you use to write these smart contracts for these tokens. And he had a class, and it was 3 weeks online class, and I actually took it twice for a total of 6 weeks, and I coded my first contract. Obviously, my friends had started wearing down on me. I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this. Hey, the contract might not work. I have no idea what's going to happen. So obviously, I can name the contract at any point in time before deployment. And gearing up for this, I named a project earlier that did very well, Evergrow token. Although I was not a pre-saler in Evergrow, I got in around October 5th, and it was still very early, and it was all the rage. It was a reward token, just for holding your assets, your Evergrow. They paid you out in BUSD rewards, and you didn't even need to sell. You're just making money, right? BUSD, it's just coming to you. A swap and liquefy function in the contract. I was like, everybody's talking about it. It went to 1.6 billion market cap in like 2 weeks or something like that. Like, it was crazy. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna come up with something. Grow something, right? I'm not gonna copy Evergrow, but I'm gonna come up with grow something. And at the time, the Squid Games TV show was all the rage. And what do you need in crypto? You need a narrative. You need something that somebody's talking about, the masses, right? And I was like, oh, this is it. Squid Grow, right? I'm not copying them word for word. I'm piecing it together, right? Some might argue it's not super original. Oh, but you Shib, you've got all this money, like you couldn't hire somebody to come up with this. Nah, man, this was my thing. This was something that I wanted to come up with on my own, and I was just gonna rock it, and that's what I did. Squid Grow. Now, again, this is 21. So during this course of time, as I'm still kind of learning and trying to figure out how to deploy contracts, because I coded a contract, I didn't know how to deploy it, so I'm still learning. And around the time that I learned how to deploy smart contracts, Squid Game, the token, came out. And it was just, everybody was talking about it. And I said, fuck, I missed my opportunity. There's another Squid token out there. I'm hit, guys. I don't know what to do. I don't have a name. Like, I don't have a logo. So I put it on the back burner. Well, everybody knows infamously that Squid Game token's rugged. It was a massive rug. It was a honeypot. You buy it, you couldn't sell it. It was bad. It tarnished the name of Squid, right? For a long time, anything with the name of Squid in it, it's got to be associated. It's got to be a rug. So 2022, June 17th, it's the day. Boys, we're going to do this. Anybody know how to set up a Telegram channel? I have no idea how to do it. So we figured it out. Got the boys in there. I'm like, all right, let's get this. And obviously I had contacts in the crypto space from other groups, and it was through these groups that I met my original core team. I started onboarding them, and it was game day, baby. Seeding liquidity, June 17th, deployed the contract. We had kind of developed a little hype in the Telegram leading up to it, and we had some decent buy pressure. What we learned within 5 minutes is the contract was a honeypot. You could buy it, but you could not sell it. Why was that? I successfully deployed it with the Uniswap router and the PancakeSwap router contract code in the contract. We're deployed on BNB. How the fuck I did that? I don't know. Liquidity was on BNB. When you were trying to sell, it didn't know where to sell. So we had to put out a message within a couple minutes. Hey guys, we're going to do a relaunch. And that's what we did the next day, June 18th. We airdropped our community of 88 that we had at the time, and it was off to the races. But going back to the original beginning, it was my friends and family, well, mostly my friends, but my family, and trying to get my family into it as well. But SquidGrow came about to try to provide my friends and family a safe place to put their money. At the time, I didn't know my community. I didn't know these community members that I've grown close to. I knew my friends, and I knew what I was trying to achieve. But those same principles stand true today. I launched SquidGrow to give my friends, family, and community a safe place to park their money, and we have done that for 2.5 years. Now, that said, I can't guarantee that the market doesn't go up, the market doesn't go down. I can't control that. When I say safe place, I know my morals. I know what I stand for. I know what I came here to do. So when I say safe place, and this is coming from a developer, take it. You can take it with a grain of salt. But with the time that I've been in the space, I think I have a little credibility. I never ever will do anything malicious when it comes to my token. The liquidity is the liquidity. The treasury is the treasury. No funny shit. And that's what I mean by safe place. And we have since then built our community, kept the liquidity safe for 2.5 years, multiple security audits. Right now we got 18 Certec audits, 4 hacking audits on various things that we built. So when I say provide a safe place in the space, that's exactly what I mean. When you go to sleep at night, Henok, if you're a SquidGrow holder, you can believe that the liquidity is going to be there in the morning. The developer, being me, is not going to do anything with that liquidity. I can't guarantee that, market cap's going to be what it is when you wake up. I can't control that, but there's no funny shit, no malicious shit. And that's why I launched SquidGrow. It originated from my friends and family, and now it's my community. And I've grown really close to my community, Henok.
I love SquidGrow, and I love the SquidGrow community. I mean, you guys have been the thing that I love the most about you guys is the consistency. As you know, in the meme coin jungle, I mean, it is predators everywhere. Communities fall apart, people turn on one another. And what's been so fun is through the ups and through the terrible lows. And even you guys had this, we had this insane run up at the end of last year, which was super fun and amazing to watch. This community deserves everything that I know is coming to it. And so I love SquidGrow. I had a buddy reach out to me and say, hey, you really need to consider this. And it's like, oh, it's Shibtoshi. Like, I'm not worried about a rug pull. I'm not worried about funny business. I know the team is going to continue to work. They're extremely well capitalized. It's such a no-brainer, and they survived the bear market. Like, there's not very many projects that can say those things. And so I love SquidGrow. I echo the exact same sentiment. Nothing that I'm communicating or anyone is communicating on this platform is financial advice. We're not here to tell anyone what to do, but the reason why I invested is because of who you are, your stature, what you've done in the space, the strength of this community, multiple years through a bear market. It's a no-brainer. These cults always do exceptional, especially at the back end of a bull run. And we're not even close to that just yet. So I love it. It's a great time to get in, join the community, build up, and see what happens thereafter, man. I love SquidGrow.
Yeah, man, there was I don't remember the exact stats, but I remember I was on an interview and we were talking about how many tokens are still around from 2022. Not many tokens actually are still thriving, in 2022. 22 was a vicious bear market, man. It was vicious. And in that year when we launched, starting market cap was 25,000. When we relaunched on June 18th, market cap was now 35,000. So I consider our starting point 35,000 market cap. And in that year, we did 2,000 X's in the middle of the bear market. That's pretty impressive.
Extremely. No one did that.
Right? It's not as impressive if we would have held that 2,000 X's. Right? I get it. Okay. But we're still here. And just recently, in December, like you said, we had another crack at it. And we ran up, 2,080 X's from starting market cap. And yes, again, we didn't hold it. We had a whale pull out 600,000 out of our liquidity pool. That was not foreseen. We didn't foresee that. But there's never an opportune time for the project for people to pull big profits. But that's their investment. They're free to do with it as they please. And I preach profit taking. I don't expect you to diamond hand it like I have Shiba Inu. I know why you're here. You're here to make friends. You're here to make money. You do you. If you can be respectful on the chart when you're pulling, be respectful. If not, I've got whales, ex-whales that have ripped us apart, and I still chat with them all the time. I mean, just last week I had a call with one of them, just shooting the shit. I don't hold a hard place for those. What does bother me though is like people that are affiliated with the project, in some kind of capacity, and they damage the chart. That bothers the fuck out of me. But the community standpoint now you can argue, okay, well, yeah, this person that kind of works with you here, they're actually a community member. Yes, that's true. But because they're on the team in some capacity, they've got some inside knowledge of what's going on. And that insider's trading shit is not okay with me. But I do preach profit pulling, and we've got a good group of whales We've got a good group of whales. We've got a great community. And we're not susceptible, or, we're not above, community members falling off. There's been some very notable community members, very active ones that have kind of distanced themselves, tell you a story. And I won't name him out of privacy, but very active community member lost his Twitter account, got suspended, right? And I'm obviously seeing it in chat. So I have this guy message me, yo, dude, I'll make a phone call for you. I'll get you your account back. And I did that. I got his Twitter account back for him. It was suspended. Wasn't going to get it back. Great community member. At some point, he turned negative against us, right? So I went above and beyond to do a favor for him, right? Made a phone call, got his account back, and he's now got the audacity to essentially bite the hand that gave him, his account back. To each is their own. Lesson learned. But, that just goes to show people take advantage of kindness. You know what I mean? Like, you could have maybe lost your conviction in the project and moved on with your life, but now you want to attack the project. Okay. All right. Well, to each is their own, right? So, people come, people go. And as people go, new communities come in and pick up that slack. And we've got, as you said, a very consistent, a very active community. We have lost some of our big soldiers over the time. We're not moving fast enough for them. We're not growing fast enough. I get it. I know why you're here to begin with, right? You're here to make money. So no hard feelings.
It's the reality of building a community.
Yep.
That's definitely the dark side of it, but it's also, there's also a great side of it too, right? Like your incredible community brought me into the project. Even though I'd heard about you guys for years, it was the good people, and I can't commend. You guys have one of the best, the strongest, most positive, encouraging communities out there. So I really hope everyone listening at least goes and does due diligence on SquidGrow. Can we talk about what you guys have been building? I mean, SilentSwap, like you guys have been like cooking. Like you're not just like a meme coin. Like you're doing some really cool stuff that I'd love for you to share with the audience.
So Henok, as we touched on earlier, I asked you that question, mass adoption in crypto, right? What I was trying to get from at least my perspective is, crypto will never be mass adopted unless there's a privacy level there, right? You're never going to go to CVS or buy a gallon of milk if everything's on chain, right? How do you achieve mass adoption, without the same level of privacy everybody's come to know? So obviously in my situation on the crypto side of things, I'm pestered with my wallets. I get a million questions, a month about my wallets. Prove this, prove that, do this, give me that. Phishing contracts, phishing NFTs, sending me tokens that have no value, thinking I'm gonna like try to sell, a token in my wallet for big money. Just you're a target, right? So it got me thinking, how can you transact in this crypto space in a way that there's no connection between wallets? If I want to buy a token, how do I get my money from this wallet to that wallet without a link? Yeah, you can send it to an exchange, and from an exchange, you can send it out from the exchange, but now I've just doxed my internal address on that exchange. So anytime I interact with that internal address, it connects my cluster. So we got to work, we started doing some research. There were some projects out there that were custodial privacy swaps utilizing centralized exchanges. And to each their own, there's nothing wrong with that, right? You want to give your crypto to a third party to hold, for whatever amount of time, that's fine, that's your prerogative. Me, on the other hand, I'm not giving custody of my crypto up. No, sir. You know what I mean? It's not that I don't use centralized exchanges, because I do. But majority of my wealth, I hold it in self-custody. So it got me thinking, how can we do something different? How can we allow people to be able to transact in a privacy way, but maintain control of their crypto assets every step of the way? How do you do that? We start researching and we start digging. I find some developers start going back and forth on it. We develop a course of action and a plan. We got to work. And, SilentSwap was supposed to be a 6-month build. Ended up taking a year. And the reason why is at the very end of the 6 months, proof of concept, everything's working flawlessly, still going through testing it, we hit a brick wall on something. Now, I couldn't even remember what it is, but we hit a brick wall. we had to start over. So we built SilentSwap twice. So the build of it. Well, I say the build time was a year because there was a lot of components of SilentSwap that it took time to build. And even when we started over to build it the last half of the 6 months, technology had evolved. In the beginning days, SilentSwap didn't have GMP Express or CCTP, right? Our transactions were, took as long as it took for the block finality to occur. Ethereum, that's 30 minutes. But in between that, when we were rebuilding, CCTP and GMP Express came out, and that allowed us to transact in seconds, right? So the SilentSwap platform obviously does a bunch of bridging. So every bridge, takes seconds and it adds up. But we got it to the point where on the original version, a transaction on Ethereum was taking every bit of 30 minutes. You can now transact on my platform for relatively cheap, very affordable, anywhere from 6 to 15 minutes time. So we've cut it in half very fast. And the underlining thing that we were going after was the non-custodial aspect of it. We wanted to be able to allow people to transact on our platform and not give custody of their assets up, and we've cracked that. We had people say it couldn't be done. I'm 1,000,000% sure you can't do this, and if you do it, I'm 99.99% sure it won't work as intended. Let me show you. I'll show you can do it. And that's exactly what we did. And SilentSwap V1 rolled out December of this year, December 9th. And we already started work of V2. V1's an impressive feat, right? There's some things about it that we've learned along the way that we can improve. It doesn't make sense to go back and fix V1 because that takes away build time from V2. We're just, everything we've learned, everything new in this space, we're forcing everything into V2. And, I'm just very, very excited about it. But, although SilentSwap hasn't had the mass adoption that we've hoped for, we have some big partners. We're partnered with Zebu. They're a telecom company that settles telecom contracts, $5 billion in volume last year. We recently partnered with SquidRouter. Their routing service, non-privacy, $2 billion in volume this year. I'm going after partnerships with volume. And I say that to say, we only have $2.5 million in volume right now on SilentSwap, right? We're a new platform. People want to see volume. People want that word of mouth, but we're brand new on the market. It takes a little time to build a reputation in this space. You start using it, Hancock, you go tell your friends, maybe they're reluctant a little bit. Then eventually they try it out when they need to swap something privately. Then they tell their friend, and that's how it goes. So, $2.5 million in volume in the last 2 months. I'd like it to be multi-billions, but it's a start. I'm a realistic man. I built something new out of thin air, and we're the new kids on the block. But give us some time, and I will definitely impress with the technology we roll out, the integrations that I have, and some massive partnerships that I have lined up.
I'm excited. It's such a needed product. I mean, the idea that I can transact using SilentSwap, and my entire history in all of crypto is not available for everyone to see. I mean, I was making dumb decisions when I first got started. I don't want people to see that.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. Like I've got, I made a lot of mistakes, when I first started my career, and I've learned a lot since then. And yeah, like things look better now, but would I want, there's enough of me out there that I'd be concerned if someone were to see what I was doing when the summer of 2021, how embarrassing, my start in crypto was so small, it's not like great public knowledge, but I only started with a few $100. Like it wasn't like I was some like whale or anything. And so there's just things that I would never want. So I love SilentSwap, and I'm really excited about the rest of the space adopting it, because who wants their entire history docs? I don't want you guys seeing my 300 or 400 other wallets that are all interconnected. And so I think this product is such a needed product. I can't believe you cracked the code. Of course it's you. Like if anyone's going to do it, it's you guys. But man, like I didn't think it could be cracked, and I'm excited. This is the future. This is where crypto is headed. It's such a needed product, and I'm really excited to see what V2 looks like. Have you guys announced some of the updates and features yet?
No, we've only said that it will be native Bitcoin and Solana compatible. That's all. We're being really tight with it. We've got to get to a certain point that once we start talking about it, it's getting close, because we don't want any competitors to swing in and start the process. We're still very guarded with even V1. Obviously, my source code's not open source. I keep those private. But we're diligently working on V2, and we're making great progress. I can't wait to start testing it. So that's kind of where we're at. And one thing I also wanted to say is, with SilentSwap, it's unique in a lot of ways from the non-custodial aspect on it. But on SilentSwap platform, if you have $16,000 and you want to buy into a token from 16 different wallets, you can take that 16 grand and split it up to 16 different wallets in 16 different amounts if you wanted to. Or you can, let's say you have $16,000 in Ethereum, you can take up to 16 different wallets and receive various crypto assets to various wallet addresses, right? You just add a different wallet, and you can pick the output. Like, it doesn't have to be like an Ethereum token. You can go BNB, Polygon. You can pick up some Shiba Inu, some Dogecoin. Like, it doesn't. If you're starting with ETH, you can end up with whatever you want, and the output is up to 16 wallets. Some of the other competitors that are custodial, it's wallet A to wallet B. Well, with us, you have wallet A to 16, up to 16 different wallets. So there's a lot of uniqueness about the platform. We've got some good videos out there on our Twitter page at SilentSwap.com, or you can find it at SilentSwap.com. But, we're definitely trying to be a shaker and mover. We are partnered with Secret Network. That's our privacy layer. Those that aren't familiar with them, it's kind of like just the privacy blockchain. It just allows you to, they're on the Cosmos chain, and it just allows you to transact in a manner that's privacy oriented. So when your assets get into the secret network, it breaks the traces of where it went to, where it started and where it went. So when it comes back out to whatever chain, there's no visible connection of where it started to where it ended up. So it's pretty impressive, man. I'm pretty proud of it. I use it quite a bit, and I think there's a big use case for it, for commercial use, business to business, payroll, possibly government use, maybe state level uses as they're getting more and more into crypto. Maybe the government wants to do payroll in cryptocurrency. They're not going to want everybody to see everybody's pay, or maybe they want to pay a contract, as I kind of said a little earlier, in cryptocurrency from the Bitcoin reserve. Like, they're going to want to be able to transact privately. They're going to want some kind of a privacy layer in that. But even taken outside the business to business commercial use, from the daily user standpoint, like, we don't want people following us around on chain. If you bought, black and blue token, and you made money on it, like, you don't want people seeing that. You don't want people seeing, like, what when you're selling, when you're pulling profits, how you're DCAing, where you're sending profits to. You want to transact privately. You don't, just like you wouldn't want everybody to see the balance that you have in your bank account. That's a private matter. How you spend your money is up to you. So I think SilentSwap is that use case. And although we are new to the space, we're going to be here for a while. The token itself, SquidGrow, has been here for 2.5 years, and what we're doing is building a self-sustaining ecosystem. And all the utilities that we are building around SquidGrow is at the center of it. And everything is revenue generating, and pieces of revenue from all of our applications go back into SquidGrow in the form of a buyback or liquidity injection. And that is how I envision a self-sustaining ecosystem for SquidGrow in my community.
I love it, man. You guys are a special meme coin. You're not really just a meme coin, but man, you have a meme cult type of community while still providing significant value to the marketplace, generating money and funds, pouring those funds back into the tokens, so investors and holders get to benefit and participate as well. So I'm excited, man. You guys are the real deal. It's been so fun to watch the journey, and the best part is it is just the beginning. We are crazy early. Shibtoshi, you have given so much value in this interview. I cannot thank you enough for it. Any parting words, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I just want to thank you for your time. Shout out to the SquidGrow community. And if you're interested in, anything that we've talked about, you can find information on squidgrow.com or silentswap.com. We're more than just a meme token. We're a meme utility token. And although we only touched on SilentSwap as far as one of the other utilities, we have many other things in our ecosystem. We've got an NFT marketplace. We got Mike S. Miller from DC Games and Thrones. Comic books. He's our NFT artist. He did 10,000 NFTs for us. Now we have not launched that collection yet, but that will be soon when the market turns around. And one unique thing about these NFTs, aside from the fact that they're from Mike Miller, is we have 100 ultra rare NFTs. And what I've done is I've purchased 100 blue chip NFTs such as Mutant Apes, Doodles, Kennel Clubs, land plots, and we have incorporated those in our ultra rare NFTs, and those are pictured with our NFT character holding a Polaroid picture of another NFT. And if you're lucky enough to mint one of the ultra rare NFTs, you get ownership of both NFTs. And at the time that I picked up those NFTs, I spent about $300,000 on all of the blue chips. As I said, we've got some Mutant Apes in there, some Doodles, Kennel Club, so on and so forth. So something unique that I hadn't seen done before. I'm actually surprised that nobody else has done it because we've been talking about it for so long. And obviously, we have Nox Locker, which is a liquidity locker that we developed for ourselves because I was just tired of paying these fees to these liquidity locker services and just losing our percentages of our liquidity. We're developing SGX, which is a decentralized perpetual exchange. I know the community is very eager to get some more additional information on that, but I won't go into detail as of now. Very, very excited to see how the regulatory framework unfolds, though, under this president, and hoping that we can start shaking up things very soon with that. But yeah, we're just, we're shakers and movers, man. I'm trying to leave my mark in this space, trying to leave it better than I have found it. And the purpose of SquidGrow for me is it's going to be my legacy in this space. I will be known for everything that I've done in this space and achieved in the community that I have built. Somebody in my position, a lot of people ask me all the time, Shib, like, why would you do this to yourself? Why would you put yourself in this situation? Why would you take on this stress? Why would you do this? Why would you do that? And it goes back to what I said originally. I started this from my friend's family. And yes, I'm not a charity, right? Like, as I said, I take care of my family, but I don't give my friends millions of dollars, right? I'm not a charity, just as I wouldn't expect my friends to give me millions of dollars if the roles were reversed. But what I'm offering is an opportunity. And obviously, there is no guarantees in life, yet alone in crypto. But what I guarantee is my consistency and my pursuit of achieving what I've set out to achieve. And I've been here for over 2.5 years, bumping and grinding for my community. Stress, weathering the market. I get excited just like my community gets excited when we are moving, and I get upset when the community's upset. When the market's down. But I'm here bumping and grinding day in and day out, not because I have to be or have an obligation to be. It's because I choose to be, but it's because I choose to be that I do have an underlying obligation to be here, right? So I gave my word that I was going to see this through, and that's what I'm doing, man. I'm going for the king. I'm going to goat myself in this space where, I'm going to be like a Ryoshi. Fuck it. Maybe I'll be like a Shibtoshi. We'll see how it goes. But my point is, whatever level of greatness that we achieve for the project, this is going to be my legacy. And I can tell you what, I've not really done anything that leaves a long-lasting legacy to date yet. Yeah, I've got determination, and I'm still here, and we spent some money on the project and so on and so forth. But after we get up, and I don't talk market caps, but after we get up to a certain level, I might be like, okay, I've done about half of what it is I've set out to do, but we got more work to do, so let's keep it going. And that's crypto, man. Day in and day out, you just grinding. And no matter what, if you're getting knocked down, you get back up, shake it off, and do it again. every inch that you gain, sometimes you lose feet when you get pushed back. But you know what? You start chopping those feet nice and tight, driving forward, you're eventually going to get the breakout you're looking for, man. And that's what it's about for me.
I love it, man. So inspiring, crazy inspiring story, inspiring trade, inspiring project, inspiring man. Shibtoshi, where can we follow you? Where can we follow the project on social media?
So the project's social media on Twitter is at @squid_grow. You can also follow the SilentSwap page. It's at SilentSwap.com. And then my Twitter page is at Shibtoshi_SG. And all of those accounts that I've named, they're all verified. They all have a SquidGrow badge on them. You can also go to the main SquidGrow page and check out our affiliates. And it will give you a list of our affiliate accounts that we have. And you can just make sure to find the legit project accounts out there. You can also find us on SilentSwap.com or SquidGrow.com. And it's from the main Twitter page that you can find our Telegram. And we're most active in Telegram, although we do have verified YouTube page, TikTok page. We're on Instagram and also Discord, but primarily we're really active on Telegram and Twitter. So, yeah, those are the locations. If you have any questions, pop on by. We're happy to answer them. I'm always floating around in the community, always up for challenging questions or questions in general. We're not hard to find.
No, not at all. Shibtoshi, thank you so much for your time. And audience, chat, thank you all so much for joining us in this episode of the Meme Coin Podcast. I've got so much coming for you all year long. People who have done incredible things like Shibtoshi, maybe not quite billionaires, meme coin billionaires, but people who've also done some great things. You don't want to miss future episodes. So make sure you follow on social media at Meme Coin Pod, POD, on all platforms. And until next time, we will see you on social media.
Take care, guys.